Good day to you. A while back, I went over two different types of images, and one of which is made entirely of pixels and one is not. So I just want to discuss them both in this video, just so you can have them for reference, and so you can complete this remote assignment. I mean, that's always good. Now, if I was to stretch this out a lot, and even if I just zoom in here, I'll eventually be able to see the individual pixels that make up this image. What was once a visually appealing beach is now just a mess of squares. That's because that's a raster image. A raster image is an image made entirely of pixels. When you do a search for something online and you look at the image results, you're looking at raster images. So we can't resize this without it losing quality, unlike with a vector image or vector artwork. So anything we draw in Illustrator is vector artwork. So even if I go and add a pattern to this, and I was to zoom in, I'm still zooming. Nothing's getting blurry. I can't zoom in anymore. So a vector image is made up of a combination of lines, curves, and shapes. The program produces whatever it needs to produce in order to create that image. So you can resize vector artwork to any size and zoom in as much as you want, and it won't get blurry, because it's not actually composed of pixels. It's composed of all those other things that I just mentioned. So that's the difference between a raster image and a vector image. Anything that we draw in Illustrator is vector artwork. So there are ways of converting one to the other, but I don't need to do that now. And unless you do it in a very specific way, it can have mixed results. So anyway, I'll move these two out of here, or I'll get rid of them outright. You may have noticed this little picture here. I kept it small because I didn't really want you looking at it yet. But I'm just going to briefly discuss color models. Now, there are different ways of mixing and matching color, and designers would take that into account when thinking about what they want their artwork being displayed on. So if you know for a fact that your artwork is going to be displayed on the web, like on a web page, and looked at through a computer screen, you would set Illustrator's color mode to RGB. Now, you know what that stands for? I'm sure you can take a good guess, but I'll give it to you anyway. Red, green, and blue. We can see that these colors are on the outside. We can see that the inside colors are a combination of two or more other colors. That's not the case for red, green, and blue. They are colors on their own. When we mix and match them, we get other things. The one to my right, or the one to the right here, CMYK. That is the color model used when a designer knows that their artwork is going to be printed. Now, these stand for cyan, magenta, yellow, and K for black. Actually, yes, the K stands for key, K-E-Y, which corresponds to black. There is a bit of history with that, which I won't really get into now. It has to do with certain keys being used to create certain colors or to create the color black. But quite often when a character is drawn, a character is outlined, the key details are often made with black. So that's a way I remember it. The black can be used to fill in the key details. It's not really how that term originated, but I like it, so I said it. Okay, so how do we even do this? How do we even use these color models? Well, it is as simple as going up to File, going to Document Color Mode, and what's this? They're both here. And it's just a matter of selecting which one to use. So RGB, used for the web, an easy way to remember that is that both RGB and web are made up of 3 letters. So there we go. And CMYK is not. But If we were to set it to RGB and then print it out, the colors in our artwork, namely any vector artwork that we draw, may not match up precisely to what's printed out. On the flip side, if we set it to CMYK, which is made for print, the colors may not match up precisely when we view it on a web page. Now, the differences are sometimes very small, but to a professional designer who wants every single detail to be as close to perfect as possible, then it is important. And it's worth noting, which is why I noted it for you. So yeah, these are two color models referred to in Illustrator as color modes. Anyway, some of these other things might be a little bit of review, but it is important that we know them. So I'm just going to draw a line here and crank up the stroke. So what I did was I changed the weight of the stroke. We've done this before, but I want to make sure we know the exact term, and the exact term is in fact weight. And you can see here when I hover over it, stroke weight. I sometimes call it thickness or size. It's best that we use the correct term. So the weight of the stroke is its thickness, and from here on out I'll be referring to it by that name, weight. By the way, that line was perfectly straight, and so was that one, and even this one. Straight going the other way. I almost created tic-tac-toe, but not quite. If you hold down Shift while drawing a line, you can draw it perfectly straight either horizontally, vertically, or even diagonally. In fact, using the eraser is the same way, actually. Notice how I'm going over here, but it's only erasing in that straight diagonal line. Oh, well, I thought it was erasing, but the eraser isn't quite as simple as you think it would be in this program. Anyway, let's just pretend I didn't bother with that. Anyway, so yeah, you hold down Shift. So let's just say I create a bunch of shapes, and I want to move them together as one object. That's something you might be doing in the near future. There are a couple ways we can do that. I can make sure I have the selection tool chosen, and I can click and drag a box around the entire thing, every object that I want to select. Then I can right-click any one of those objects that I selected, then click Group. So now I can move and resize all the objects together as one. If you ever want to ungroup, just right-click the whole set of it, and then click Ungroup. Or I can click one, then hold Shift and click the others. Now I only click 3 of them. I can group them together. And there. And right-click and ungroup if you want to. So you can hold Shift and click all the other ones as well. So anyway, we're going to be working with effects very soon for the icon project. And when we do that, we have to go to a very specific place. We have to go up to the effect gallery. We can actually choose any of these effects right now, right from here. But this is what I recommend doing because you folks haven't used this before, like 99% of you, so you don't know what these effects look like. Here, we can get a preview of that effect. So I'd like you to go to the effect gallery. That will load. And sometimes you just won't see what you're working with. So the next thing I would like you to do is click where it says 100% over here and click Fit on Screen. So this is just the zoom option. We can zoom in, out, and then fit the entire thing on screen. And then finally, we can choose, or maybe not finally, but we can choose an effect and then finally choose how much of these settings we want to apply to it, like smoothness and distortion. And I guess finally for real. And my computer crashed on me. But I was going to say, finally for real, click OK and it will apply the effect. Alright, let me just get rid of that so it doesn't happen again. I'm going to cap this off with a couple of notes about gradients. So we should be well familiar by now that we can go to the gradient panel to set up such a thing. And we can either start by choosing a pre-made one like white and black, or just click somewhere along this bar and you will start setting up the gradient. So I can just proceed as normal by choosing the colors that go along with each slider, or the color that goes to each slider. There's only one of them per slider. This option won't always be here, so I recommend just going straight to the fill box, but since it is here, there. And to add a third color, just click somewhere below this bar. You can click on the bar to start setting up the gradient, but to add another slider, we have to click below it. Now I'll just choose the third color. And here's a nice patriotic looking gradient. And we can add more colors if we want to by clicking anywhere below. And to take one away, just click the trash can with the slider selected. I can also change the angle if I want to. And what that does, like if I select 45 or 120, that just changes the position of each color. So now the blue is in the upper left, with the red being in the lower right. And the middle color will always be in the middle. Like the white would always be in the middle, unless I added another color in addition to that. Oh, looks like computer's struggling to keep up, but that's okay. I think it'll work. Like if I added green right here. I can go ahead and change the angle on that again. And there. Now we have a 4-color gradient. So we can add more sliders by clicking below the bar, below the color bar, and then we can change the position of each color by changing its angle. We'll do a little bit more with changing the position of a gradient when we eventually start using the gradient tool, but that's later. For now, I think I've gone over enough with you folks, so we will continue to learn more interesting things to do with Illustrator and more ways to enhance your artwork.